Okay, I believe we are live. Hello, everyone. I hope you're doing good. Welcome to this webinar. So my name is Michelle. I'm the SCOFE Regional Assistant for the Americas. So buenos dias, bom dia, bonjour, or good evening if it's the night for you. So I'm really happy to be hosting this webinar. We're going to talk a little bit about how to deal with mental health in a team, how to deal with stress, with burnout, with, for example, like overload of work, and how it can influence the work of a team, and how us as IFMSA members, we can contribute to better mental health of our members. Here within medical students, but in every aspect of our lives too, and in every moment that we are leading a team or we are a part of a team. So we're going to start. I'm going to share with you the slides, of my PowerPoint. If you have any question, please feel free to write them in the comments on YouTube, or you can also contact Rodrigo, who's the CBRA for the Americas, and he's going to be sharing with me the questions that I will answer at the end of the presentation. Okay, so here we go. Oh, and I'm from Montreal, Canada, so I'm here in Montreal, and fortunately it's summer, so it's pretty warm, so that's good for my mental health. And I also have my coffee, which is the second good thing for my mental health. Okay, so let me share with you my slides, entire screen. Okay, there you go. So, stress and mental health in a team. So, that's maybe you in this moment. Maybe it was you a few days ago, or maybe it's some members of your team. Sometimes we feel like everything is burning around us, but we keep saying that we're fine. But are you really? Sometimes not, and that's why it's so important to talk about it. So let me explain you the schedule of today. We're going to have a little introduction about mental health. What is mental health? What is stress? What is burnout? And then MH, it's not for Michelle Hood, it's for mental health. Because mental health, even though we talk a lot about it, stays a taboo. And even when we say we're open about mental health, a lot of the times there's still a little component of taboo regarding mental health and regarding what we can do to tackle mental health. Then we're going to talk about what IFMSA does for mental health at the international level, regional level, and at the national and local levels. So I had recently a meeting with the national public health officers, and they shared with me what strategies they are using in their national organizations to tackle mental health of medical students, of their members, of their national team, a little bit of everything. And then we're going to have a conclusion. And of course, it's the moment where when I will answer your questions. Okay, mental health. Seems pretty obvious, eh? What is mental health? Well, mental health, if I take the second point, the definition of the WHO, is defined as a state of well-being in which every individual realizes his or her own potential, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to her or his community. I find this definition quite interesting because mental health, we're not only talking about the absence of disease, the absence of mental disease. We're also talking about feeling comfortable and feeling well with yourself and being able to accomplish yourself at your best. So when I have a little survey that I will talk to you later for my regional team, and I ask them, do you feel overwhelmed about the quantity of work? Do you feel like you can crumble under work? And that's a little bit like what this definition says. Can you cope with the stress in this moment, or do you feel like you cannot cope anymore with your stress? So the first point that says there is no health without mental health, it's a quote that I love, that's pretty famous, and that I heard for the first time at the Pan American Health Organization meeting. It was from one of the governments that was saying we need to tackle mental health as much as we tackle physical health, even if it's not maybe quite the case yet. As you understood from the definition, Every team needs a good mental health to be productive, because if everyone feels good, everyone takes time for themselves, if the tasks are well distributed and everyone is feeling good, the team is going to go much, much faster and much further too. So you got it right. And the coffee here is because, well, not for everyone, but for some people, coffee is good to cope with mental health. What about burnout? So that's very interesting. I'm sorry for all the text here, but I went to search burnout, WHO, World Health Organization, and actually in the last assembly of the World Health Organization, they adopted here the, yes, so in May 2019, they adopted a new policy that says that burnout is now included in the list of, okay, here, burnout is included in the 11th revision of the International Classification of Diseases as an occupational phenomenon. It is not classified as a medical condition. So that's really interesting. It explains us a bit what is burnout. Burnout is a mental health burden related to work, related to your occupation. So that's something super important, because when I hear about people with mental distress in IFMSA, well, the majority of them, their distress is related to the amount of work, every work, the work in the hospital, the work at home, the work with the family, but also the work in the federation. So that's on the WHO website if you want to check more about that. Now, the second part here, I will read it to you because I feel it's super interesting. Burnout is a syndrome conceptualized as resulting from chronic workplace stress that has not been successfully managed. It is characterized by 3 dimensions: feelings of energy depletion or exhaustion, increased mental distance from one's job, or feelings of negativism or cynicism related to one's job, and reduced professional efficacy. So having stress in a certain team or in a certain environment is not negative. We all need stress in life. There's some good types of stress, and sometimes we need stress to be more efficient. But when we are not able to cope with that stress that is, related to work, that's the moment where we can call it a burnout. Okay, so the source is on the WHO website, as I told you, and it's written down here. Okay, stress and work. So I talked to a lot of people in the Federation to know what kind of things are stressing them. And there are a lot of dimensions to one's mental health. There are personal goals, peer pressure, personal life, mental and physical health. So for example, I know that I personally, and a lot of people in IFMSA, put on their shoulders a lot of pressure. I hear a lot of people that say that they're involved in IFMSA because they want to change the world, they want to contribute to a better world, they want to contribute to the health, yes, of their city, but also of their country, of their region, and of the world in general, and that's beautiful. But sometimes when your goals are so high, you put on yourself a lot of pressure to have a big impact, and it can be very, very distressing for your mental health. Peer pressure, okay. In IFMSA, there's that great environment of support. We can do this, we can do more, we can do better, which is great. But sometimes it can also put a lot of pressure on one's shoulder. When you are in a team and you know that your teammates are waiting for your work, that your teammates have, faith in you and are waiting after you, it can be very hard when you feel so stressed and you feel like you need to take a step back to know that people will have more work, or to know that people will be disappointed. I don't know. Then personal life, of course. In IFMSA, we are also medical students. Well, for the most of us, or we are health students or new health professionals. So we have a lot of work. We have a family, we have friends, we have personal problems, and it can be tough in some moments when you have responsibilities in IFMSA, but also in the rest of your life. And then mental and physical health. Some people will have, let's say, a mental health issue before starting their work or before being stressed by the work. So when the stress comes, over that disease or that issue, it can worsen it. And the same goes for physical health. So I was telling you about that because when you are in a team, you need to keep in mind that you personally are going to need to deal with all of those to keep your mental health, to keep yourself healthy mentally, and that all your colleagues are also going to get through all of those steps to preserve their mental health. Okay, MH in a team, is it a taboo? So I might say, in my opinion, it is still a taboo. Even though in the Federation, we are quite open about mental health. We talk about it a lot. We promote it. We say it's important. We also promote it at the populational level. But sometimes when we need to reflect on what causes mental health issues, what is the issue here, and it's the time to take action, it can become a little more difficult because we also have our own objectives and our goals. So I think that sometimes, mental health stays a taboo at the personal level. I don't want to talk about my issues because I want to continue my work, or also at the group and at the team level, because, our main goal is to move forward with our projects. So in my opinion, the way of tackling mental health in a team is about talking and acting. So sometimes we keep ourselves at the talking level. How are you doing? If you're not doing good, talk to me, feel free, which is incredible. We need to talk about mental health in a team so that everyone feels, okay, if I don't feel good, I can share it with my team members or with one of my team members to ask for help. So that's super important. But we cannot forget to act after talking. So let me explain myself a little bit. The first component to tackle is the amount of work and the distribution of work. Sometimes, the tasks are not well distributed and each person has a lot of work to do in the team. Sometimes we are missing one position. Sometimes we have too many positions and we do the work twice, we do the work 2 times. So the amount and distribution of work is very important, because I have seen that in some teams, throughout my life, that some people feel like they have too much work in the team, and that is putting a lot of stress on them. So if you are evaluating the mental health in your team, you should ask people, how do you feel the work is distributing? Do you feel like you have too much work? And how could we help you? How could we better distribute the work? The second thing is the timeline, of course. So when you're working and, for example, you need help from others and you put a deadline, if the deadline is too short, it can cause a lot of stress on your team. The same goes for if you put on yourself a deadline that's too short, then you're going to end up being very stressed by that. And chronically, it can cause a burnout. So that's important to think about the timeline. Then communication. Of course, that's like the basics. Communication is so important for mental health. Well, first on communication, talk about mental health, as I said, but also talk about task distribution, talk about how the work is going, talk about how can we do to improve ourselves. And also creating that spirit of friendship in the team can really, really help to protect the mental health of the members. Then to have a plan of action. So in IFMSA, most people create an action working plan. No, annual working plan. And that helps a lot because it helps you planning your year. What can I do in which moment? And, to be able to think in advance about what you will have to do, and also to do things that you like. and to share the work evenly between the people of the team. So I think the plan of action is a super good point, but it's also important to stay flexible in your plan of action so that if you're not feeling good, well, maybe some points of your plan you can cut. So that leads me to the next point, the SMART objectives. So you do a plan, but you need to plan in a realistic way. So SMART is, I'm gonna have a hard time to say every letter by heart, but it's the point of having objectives that are realistic, that are achievable, that you can do, that is in a good time frame. So that is very, very important to make sure you don't have that high of a level of stress. So if you're the leader of your team, I might say it's a little bit of your responsibility to talk with your members and the members of your team and see if they really have SMART objectives, or give them trainings about the SMART objectives so they can, they can plan some realistic projects and activities. And then the last thing is it's okay not to be okay. I saw in a lot of teams I've been a part in IFMSA and outside of IFMSA, people that were feeling very bad of not feeling good. It's a bit weird to say, but that were shy of talking about it. And they said, I need to work, I need to continue. I don't know why I'm feeling like that. But we need to repeat in the team, guys, it's okay not to be okay. And if you're not okay, share it with us. Okay, so about breaking the taboo, I wanted to share with you a project that I did a few years ago on the Facebook page, Les Humains de la Médecine, Humans of Medicine. It was a project for the Americas region, Brasse tes idées, change your mind, una historia que contar. So it was a project about people, mainly medical students of the Federation, sharing their story about mental health. A lot of them, have suffered about mental health issues and shared their story. And it actually got a pretty good reach. And people, I heard a lot of people that told me they felt connected to those stories. There was also one NPO that was in charge of sharing this project in her country that told me, hey, Michelle, I just got a message from a member that told me, I just saw your project and I wanted to share my story, but I'm really not feeling good. I feel like I have a big depression and I really need help. So, just by sharing stories and just by opening, a safe place to talk about mental health in an open way, some people started to share their story and seek for help, which is great. So that was just one example on what kind of project you can make so that people feel more comfortable of sharing their stories. Okay, and don't forget, if you have any question, you can always share them with us and we will answer them at the end of the webinar. Okay, what to do as a leader or member of a team? I think that you can be a mental health advocate in any part of your life. If you're the leader of a team, if you're the member of a team, or if you're the observer of a team, you can always be the advocate for mental health, because I won't repeat it enough. We need to share the word. Mental health is the priority. Then, your personal life, then your studies, if we talk about IFMSA, and then your work, which is also super important. But we always need to put mental and physical health at the start at the top of the list. So what to do? The first thing is to talk. I already told you about that, to have discussions in your team about the importance of taking care of yourself and to share with the other people when you feel overwhelmed by your work. The second thing is to assess. That is a point that I really like. I'm going to share with you, I'm going to share this with you a little later when we talk about IFMSA, but I feel like to have an assessment of the mental health of your team regularly is very important. There's different techniques. For example, in the team of IFMSA Quebec for the SCOPE committee, it was more informally. So I, as an NPO, was writing to the LPOs, how are you doing? How are you doing with your work? How are you doing with your exams? Do you feel like it's a tough period? And then, since it was a small team, we could one-on-one adapt the amount of work and just make sure that everyone was feeling good. Sometimes when it's a bigger team, it's important, well, it's interesting to do it as a survey. So that everyone can fill in how they're feeling. But I'm going to explain the different types of survey that you can do a little later in the presentation. Then brainstorm. So, well, okay, I'm going to explain it to you now because brainstorm is related to the point before. In the regional team, there's a survey. It starts by, from 1 to 10, what is your level of stress? Second point, what are your main stressors? And then, oh, just give me a moment. Okay, I locked my mom out of her home. So the first question, what is your level of stress? The second question, what are your main stressors? Because a lot of the time you're gonna have a few ideas of the solutions to the stress of the members of your team. Then the other question is, do you feel like you are overloaded by work? Do you feel like you cannot handle everything in the team? The other thing is, do you feel like you might be living a mental breakdown or that you might have a burnout? There's another question that says, do you feel like you need help? And if yes, put here your name, because otherwise it's an anonymous survey. And then the last thing is, what could we do to improve the mental health of our members? Do you have any suggestions? So for the assessment part, I try also to open the floor so that people can share what they're feeling and what we could do to improve ourselves. Then the brainstorm step for me is the most important step, because when we share that we're not okay, what can we do to change the situation? If we see that at a certain point of the year, usually it's maybe after the half of the year, when we start to be a little more tired, that a lot of people feel very stressed and feel overwhelmed. Okay, maybe there's something we can do. So we can meet, we can have an online meeting or meet in person if it's a team in the same city or the same country, and talk about what we can do to change this. There is no good answer to that, but it's about the ideas of the members of your team. I'm going to share with you a little later the ideas of some NMOs, what they've done to help on that point. So I'm going to be sharing some ideas with you later. The fourth step is to change. Of course, what we decided that was not working, we need to change it. The fifth point is to accept it. We need to accept that some members of the team will not work as productively in some moments, that ourselves will not work as productively, because we all need a break at some point. And the last point is to share. In my opinion, if you feel comfortable doing it as the leader of a team, you can share your own state. Hey guys, I need to tell you I'm feeling overwhelmed in this moment. I have a lot of things to do at school, and I'm sorry if I answer you a little later. Or hey guys, do you think someone could help me on this or this task, because I feel really overwhelmed? If yourself starts to open up a little bit to the others will also do it afterwards. So let's wrap up this. 1, talk. 2, assess. 3, brainstorm. 4, make the change. 5, accept the situation. And 6, share your own story, of course, if you feel comfortable doing it. So simple as that baby is telling us. Okay, I just wanted to add a slide very quickly. When we consider mental health, we absolutely need to include sexual health, because sometimes when we talk, I really love the word safe space. For me, safe space has a lot of meanings. It's about mental health, it's about sexual health, it's about physical health. For example, if you're taking a party, to have a safe space means a space where you don't have to drink alcohol, where you have water, where you can rest for your physical health, when you can talk about what happened, where you can be alone if you want, where you can have all the support you want for your mental health, and the same goes for your sexual health. So I think that if in your team you're organizing big events, when you're planning in advance, you need to include a strategy about sexual health, how to create a safe space in your event. The same goes for promoting respect and acceptance regarding gender, regarding sexual orientation, regarding sexual practice also. So for me, it's something quite important, and I just wanted to highlight it for you. Okay, let's see. No questions for now. Okay. What is done in IFMSA? So I'm going to share what I know personally. I know that the executive board, or I think it's the team of official, I'm not quite sure, but has a survey to assess the mental health of the members of the TO, let's say, that also assess the level of stress. Why are you stressed? How could we distribute better the work? So actually, when I started the survey for the regional team, I inspired myself from the executive board or team of officials survey. The SCOFE international team has something that's called Mental Health Watch. It's a survey that we fill every month while we fill in our report. And it's a place where we can talk about how it's going and how our mental health is going. And we also have, some inspirational quotes, some words of encouragements from the leaders of the team. So 2 people are in charge of that survey. In the Americas regional team, it's named the well-being assessment, and I already described you which questions there are. I'm the one who's in charge of that. It's anonymous, as I told you, so I read the answers, and afterwards I share. I don't share all the answers, but I share some preoccupations that I have, related to that survey, and I contact individual people if they need so. The reason I'm sharing that example is that I just wanted to give you one idea of one thing you can do, and I think it's not everything, but it's a good start to make sure the team is constantly improving themselves. In the Americas region, we also presented a statement at the regional meeting of the Americas in Quito last January. So we talked about our concern about the mental health burden of IFMSA's work on a lot of members. So small working groups at the regional level will be created after the August meeting. So of course, you guys are going to be informed about that. I think it's going to be the good moment to say, okay, what can we do in the international federation to improve the mental health of our members? And I think the collaboration with SCOMI will be interesting in that, to know how to protect the mental health of medical students, which is also a big, interesting topic. The last thing is that, mental health is a SCOFE regional priority in the Americas. So it's really interesting to talk about mental health during the different meetings, with the online meetings, with the NPOs, and to see also which projects the NPOs or just the SCOFE teams are doing in each country. Because a lot is currently done, and I feel like it's very great that people take mental health as a very important topic. Okay, so now I'm going to share with you some ideas that some NPOs shared with me. So we had a meeting with the National Public Health Officers of the Americas, and they explained to us how their NMO does to tackle mental health. And I think some of those ideas were amazing and can be used all over the world. So that's why I'm spreading the word. Um, the first thing was, again, surveys for the national team and for the members. That was interesting because they were creating a general survey that could be filled by any medical student. And the national team was, well, the national public health officer is sharing it with the national team. And every local president is also sharing it with their team and with all medical students in their campus, in their like medical faculty. So for me, it's really, really nice to know that we go out of the team to reach more people, because mental health is a big, big topic for medical students. As we know, medical students tend to put a lot of stress on their shoulders, but also tend to have a lot of work. Sorry. So I really like the fact that we would send the survey to all the medical students of the country. The second thing was done by an NMO, is an art contest with the theme of mental health, and also a video to break the taboo. So that video is going to be planned very soon. You're going to see the email. You're going to see the email, but also the publication on Facebook. It's going to be a video by Ecuador, but for all the Americas, talking about like, what would you say to yourself in your worst moment to encourage yourself. So I think that's a great way to just talk about mental health as much as possible to make sure it breaks the taboo. The other thing is about the regulations. So that was from IFMSA Brazil. A lot of them, some members actually wanted to have more than one position at the same time, which was a whole lot of work. So when they saw that it was actually a very big cause of mental health issues in their team, they decided to adopt a regulation in their General Assembly about having only one national position at the same time, which is something important, in my opinion, to go at the regulation levels to change the amount of work of each position or of each person. A few NMOs also are doing statements during General Assemblies, which is great. You can also create policy documents to say, okay, we, IFMSA something, we take position on mental health, we think it's important to protect the mental health of medical students, and here is a few action points of how we're going to do that. Then there's a project that's super nice that was from Paraguay, if I'm right, which is to dress in yellow every Friday to raise awareness about mental health, especially about depression. I feel that's super good to encourage the conversations and just to show like solidarity and to show people that those who suffer from mental health are not alone, and it's just as normal as having any physical problem. Then one NMO, I'm not sure, I think it was Peru, but is doing a monthly conference about mental health with SCOMI. So that might be more at the local level, but organizing a conference about mental health to the students is a very great way to raise awareness. And collaborating with SCOMI is super important. I think mental health should not be only for SCOF. It should be related to SCOMI because there's a big burden on medical students, and we need to rethink the medical education itself to see how to protect the mental health of the students. And I know a lot of NMOs are working on that in this moment. We can also work with SCORA because sexual health and mental health are super related. With SCORE because mental health can create stigmatization and also create gaps and unfairness in the population. And we also need to work with the national teams, so with your executive board or with your national team, to know how we can change the regulations or how we can adopt documents to tackle mental health. The next thing is a platform to share experiences, which was from one of the countries of the Caribbean, but I don't quite remember which one. So they had a platform online, and people could anonymously share their experience, and it was like a safe space to talk about mental health. The last point was a training on mental health at national assemblies. I really, really like that idea. That was from Peru, because I think that when you're training your national officers each year, it's important to train them on mental health. First of all, you're going to have a big position this year. Don't forget to care about your mental health. But you're also going to be the leader of a team, of your own team, of your committee. So how can you create, a mental health friendly environment, giving them tips a little bit like we're doing today. So I really love that idea too. Those are just a few examples. Every NMO that I talk to is working actively on mental health, and I think it's great. I invite you guys at the end of the webinar to share also what your national team is doing for mental health, or simply to write to me. My address will be at the end. If you want to share what you're doing, if you want to have more information on what you can do, it's going to be a pleasure for me to share your ideas or to share ideas of other people to you. And you're going to have my email at the end. Yeah. So the conclusion to all of this, you cannot help others if you don't help yourself. And you cannot love others if you don't love yourself, which might sound a little cheesy, but it is true. If you really want to make a difference in the world, like I know all IFMSA members do, well, you need to put yourself first all the time. And as we said, it's okay not to be okay. If you need to take a break, if you need to slow down a little bit, it's totally fine. And we need in the team to spread that word. If you're not okay, it's okay. Then be an advocate. I think that each person that's listening to this webinar is highly interested about mental health. So I think that throughout your life, you should be the mental health advocate, which is quite simple. When you're in a team, remind your team that we need to talk about mental health. When you see someone that's not okay around you, go talk to him and say, hey, what's going on? When you're not okay yourself, go talk about it. That's being an advocate as well. So I need to tell you, always keep in mind in every aspect of your life to advocate for mental health. That your mental health is more important than your work, of course. Better mental health equals better work, and a healthy team equals a productive team. So if some people are not convinced about mental health in your team, that argument is a pretty good one. Okay, so again, I don't want to repeat myself too much, but if you're not okay or someone around you is not okay, talk about it. Don't stay alone. A lot of people having mental health problems feel isolated, feel like they're alone, and sometimes feel like they cannot talk about it. And with the surveys in the different teams I was in, what I saw is that what stresses me, and I feel like, my God, I should not be stressed about that, also stresses other people. And what I'm living, other people are also living it. So don't stay alone, because at the end you are not alone. We're all in this together. So you have my email here at the end for any question. If you would like to if you would like to have the survey, to share with your own teams, you can write to me, and I'm gonna write you down the different questions of the survey. It's gonna be a pleasure for me, and I think that is one good step to take, in our team to protect the mental health. I believe this was my last slide. Yes, it was. So. Rodrigo, I'm going to wait for your message to see if we have some questions. So this is your moment, guys. If you want to share anything or ask any question, it's going to be a pleasure. Yeah, let's wait 1 or 2 minutes. I totally agree. to see if they have any. Okay. Maybe while we wait for your questions, guys, I can say, I think that when you start a term, or when you start working in a team, it can be a very good idea in the first meeting to sit with your teammates and to say, okay, let's make a plan for mental health. Okay, what if we're not feeling good? What do we do? What if we feel like we have too much work? What do we do? So what can we make throughout the year to make sure that people feel good and feel comfortable to share what's happening, or feel comfortable to take a step back? I think that's one important thing. And each time you're meeting with your team, we should have that discussion about mental health. How is our mental health going? What could we do to improve the situation? How is the amount of work? So I think that's a good thing to start with, to have that strategy written down, so everyone knows, what steps to take if they're not feeling good or someone around them is not feeling good. Okay, we're still going to wait a minute or two to see if there are any questions. Okay, I'm going to take that time to tell you, I invite you, if it's not already done, to be on this different servers, different servers of IFMSA. So the general server, the SCOF server, and the Americas server, because when we have different projects, oh, we have a question. Okay, so when we have a project or we have an opportunity, you're going to receive it. And I also invite you to like the Facebook page of SCOF Americas and of SCOF, which is Standing Committee on Public Health, because when we have projects to share, it's going to be shared mainly by Facebook. So you might get some ideas, or you might see some opportunities pass to collaborate to some projects. For example, we will have 2 trans-regional projects. We're going to work all the region together that is related to mental health. One is the mental health of cancer patients, and the other one is the mental health of adolescents, teenagers, related to their self-esteem, which is something very great that we started at the regional meeting. And to see those opportunities pass, you need to follow the servers in your email, and you also need to follow the Facebook pages if you do have Facebook. Okay, so we have Jessica Marrero saying, I just want to congratulate you from this presentation. It's a very important topic. Thank you very much, Jessica. And hello, I'm happy to see you there. And I think there are no questions. That's what Rodrigo is telling me. Okay, so I think it's the time to say bye. So thank you so much, guys, for being here. The webinar is going to be available on YouTube, so you're going to be able to share it with your teams if you want, or to watch it again as you want. And you're going to also have the slides shared with you by email and by Facebook. So I thank you, and take care of one another. I'm finishing my sip of coffee. Bye.